This year's Fundays is only a few days away, but what happened to all the exclusives from last year's Camp Fundays and the Box of Fun? Today we're going to talk about it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So first things first, drop it down in the comment section below. How many boxes were you selected for through the EQL system, and which mascots were they? And I know some people were not thrilled with how the EQL system works, but I think ultimately we're either going to be happy or sad based on the results in a few days when we actually find out what is in those boxes. But before we get into that, we have to talk about last year's Camp Fundays and the items that were in last year's take-home boxes of fun. We're going to hit the highlights here, and there's a lot of really interesting price differences from what some of these items were going for a year ago and what some of these items are going for now, and I think it's going to give you guys a lot of insight as to where you want to place your budgets in terms of what you're looking for this year's Box of Fun and this year's Fun Day releases. So to recap really quick, last year's take-home Camp Fundays Box of Fun was $105. You got your mascot pop, 3 limited edition Freddies, and 2 limited edition sodas. None of the sodas had chases, unfortunately, so we will not be talking very much about sodas in today's video. The first Freddy that I want to discuss is none other than a Star Wars one. We're first going to cover some of the highlights from last year's take-home Box of Fun. First up, we have Freddy Funko as Luke Skywalker holding Grogu. This one was actually limited to only 4,000 pieces, yet it's actually holding pretty decent value, coming in at $90. At one point, it was going for $120, had a nice little bump up to $140, and now it's come down and settled in at $90. So the power of Grogu, I feel like, has really compelled this one to stay near that $100 mark, because I think if Luke Skywalker was on his own, or if it was a different version of Luke Skywalker at 4,000 pieces, I really don't think that he would be valued at $90. So I guess Grogu really does have that much of an impact on anything when it comes to collectibles and merchandise. Next up, we're going to talk about Freddy Funko as the Stormtrooper. This one was a very surprise hit, as there was no Stormtrooper variant at the Fundays event. This was strictly one that you could only get in the take-home boxes, and I think this was a really nice surprise considering that this one was 2,000 pieces. It's currently trending for $120. At its release, it was going for $270, so it has come down by quite a bit, but it is only limited to 2,000 pieces, and I think unless you're a diehard Star Wars fan, you're probably not going after this one. Also, I failed to mention that the lowest piece count that you could potentially pull in last year's take-home boxes was 500 pieces, with the max piece count being 5,000 pieces, which is actually the same parameters for this year's Box of Fun as well. So I'm very curious and eagerly awaiting, just like most of you guys, to find out what potential 500-piece pop or soda pulls will be inside these upcoming boxes. But next up, we're going to talk about a Disney Freddy. This is Freddy Funko as the Mad Hatter. There was a couple variants of this one in the take-home boxes. We're specifically looking at the Glow Freddy as Mad Hatter. Now, when I first saw this one, I was a little upset because one of the rules when it comes to Freddy Funko, or one of the unspoken rules, is that once Funko decides to make Freddy dress up as a character, they should never do it again, unless it's Batman. They just continue to pump out Freddy as Batman. But with the Mad Hatter here, I guess you could say that they could kind of get away with this because this specific Mad Hatter was actually based off the animated Disney version and not the Johnny Depp portrayal of the Mad Hatter in the live-action Disney film. So this glow-in-the-dark Freddy as Mad Hatter is currently only going for $50. So for a 2,000-piece pop, you can see that this is very affordable here in 2024. At its moment of release, it was actually trending for around $175, so it's come down by quite a bit. Next up, we have another really cool glow-in-the-dark Freddy. This here is Freddy as the Green Ranger. They did make a non-glow and a glow. The glow was limited to 4,000 pieces, believe it or not, and I actually think that this was a very good choice for a Freddy variant last year, because if you guys recall, back in 2017, we did get 4 other Power Ranger Freddys. We got the red one, the blue one, as well as the White Ranger, and then that, 24-piece Freddy Funko as the Black Ranger. That is one that I will likely never own. I do have the other 3 Freddys. All 3 of those other ones are valued at quite a bit. and they were all limited to 525 pieces. This one, the Freddy Funko as Glow Green Ranger, was one of the more desired ones from the take-home box of fun, currently trending at $47, and when it first hit the market last summer, it was going for $250. So this one has come down once again by quite a bit. The last Freddy that I want to talk about specifically from the take-home boxes before we get into the actual items that were given away at Fundays is unfortunately one of the Freddys that was part of the sticker debacle issue that we had last year. So last year, if you were not in the community at the time, there were some Freddys that were stickered incorrectly and overproduced. So there were some Freddy characters that were given away at Fundays that had a sticker saying one number, and there was also the same exact version of some of the Freddy characters that had a different piece count sticker that were given out in the Fundays boxes. And Freddy Funko as Merlin was one of those characters. Now, the Diamond Freddy Funko as Merlin was actually the same piece count for at Fundays and in the take-home box, and they're both trending for about the same, which makes sense. They're both limited to 500 pieces, and the one that was given away in the take-home box is trending for around $130, which I think is extremely cheap for a 500-piece pop here in 2024, especially a Freddy, and a little bit more of a cooler Freddy, if you ask me, because he's got the beard and the hair and the glasses and everything. I think this one is just phenomenal. But that was the last highlight that I wanted to talk about from the Fundays, or excuse me, from the box of fun, take-home box of fun from last year. Now we're going to get into the Fundays exclusive releases. Now, Fundays this year is a little different because it is not 1, but 2 days. And even though they have kind of said, and I've heard through multiple sources through the grapevine, that it's going to be the same exact boxes that are given out both Friday and Saturday night, I would just be blown away if they don't give away at least one different item Friday night compared to Saturday night. And I actually think they should give away at least a few items, even if they're pins or a poster or a wacky wobbler or a biddy set or maybe one pop or one soda that is different, just to kind of distinguish the nights from each other, because there are going to be different attendees from each night. And I think in the future, if they do that, it would just encourage people to therefore go out and spend more money and buy tickets for each individual night. Because if I was Funko in the future, I would want to have Fundays for 3 nights. I mean, why not? Make it the whole weekend of San Diego Comic-Con. It's just more revenue and more money at the end of the day. But let's get into the items that were given away specifically at Fundays. So you could only get them if you attended the event in person, and most of these are still pretty expensive, but you guys will see some of the price differences that we're going to talk about here in a moment. So we're going to start off with the Blacklight Freddy as Shaggy, limited to 750 pieces. There was actually 3 variants of Shaggy, and this one is actually trending for $145. I think it's fine when they do multiple variants of a Freddy dressed up as a certain character, because if the variants are different enough, it still makes the pops very distinguishable, you know, against each other. This one unfortunately did come down quite a bit. It was trending for around $400 when it first hit the market. So if you waited until now or a few months ago to pick it up, you saved yourself quite a bit of money. Next up, let's talk about one of the fan favorites and a character that pretty much everybody has on their mind because he's got a brand new movie coming out this week, and that is Freddy Funko as Wolverine. And they actually gave away 2 different variants of Freddy Funko as Wolverine. So Freddy Funko as Wolverine in the brown suit was limited to 850 pieces, currently trending for $460. It was going for almost $500 last summer, so it really hasn't come down by very much, and I could actually see it going up in the next few months, specifically because of the Deadpool and Wolverine movie that is about to hit theaters. They did give away another version of Freddy Funko as Wolverine, which was far more limited, coming in at only 250 pieces. This was the yellow suit Freddy as Wolverine, and it's currently trending for $2,180, making it one of the most expensive Freddys that you could have gotten from last year's Camp Fundays. And believe it or not, this one has actually trended upward in price, and once again, I think it has everything to do with the fact that Wolverine does have a movie coming out. also has to do with the fact that 250 pieces might as well be a 24 piece here in 2024. It was going for around $2,000, so it hasn't seen that much of an increase, but still, an increase in price is still an increase in price. Next up, let's talk about another very limited Freddy Funko as the Spartan Warrior from Halo. This one was very cool, and I actually think, unlike the Wolverines, this one is harshly undervalued. It's coming in at only $680, although I did witness one sell on auction the other night for upwards of $800, so I think this PPG is a little bit lower than it should be. When it first hit the market last year, it was going for around $1,000, and then it peaked up a little bit, coming up to $1,250, and now it says at that 680 mark, but I think $800, 750, 800 is more of an accurate value for this one. And this one could be going up in the coming years just because of how limited it is. And who knows if Funko will ever make another Halo Freddy character, although Freddy Funko as Master Chief would be pretty amazing. Next up, let's talk about another pair of very desired Freddys, and they're actually at the top of my wish list. Hopefully I'll be able to get them in the next 5 to 10 years or so. We have Freddy Funko as Anakin. We'll start off with the regular one, which was limited to 600 pieces, currently trending at $370. If it comes down just a little bit lower, I'm definitely going to be pulling the trigger on this one very soon. When it first hit the market, it was going for around $550, and then we saw a very nice price increase going up to $800, and now it's come down and settled in at $370. If some of you guys are wondering why it went up all of a sudden to $800, last summer we got the Ahsoka series, and we did see the appearance of Hayden Christensen portraying Anakin once again in that series. And I think that has everything to do with this pop actually going up in price. I think Funko just got really lucky. I don't think they had any idea, like most of us, we had no idea that Hayden Christensen was actually going to appear in the show and have as much of a role as he did. There was rumors that he was going to come back, but he had previously done the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, so those rumors were just really rumors until we saw him actually appear on screen, which was a very nice treat. And we also got another Freddy Funko as Anakin variant. This one is, for me, way more desired than the Wolverine one. This one is just as limited as the yellow suit Wolverine, coming in at 250 pieces. And this is the holographic, glow-in-the-dark Freddy Funko as Anakin Skywalker, currently trending for $2,480. So once again, a very, very expensive piece. And if you were lucky enough to pull this one from your box, man, this would have paid for your entire trip to San Diego Comic-Con and back, and probably even given you enough money to go spend some money on some other pops. But at the time of release, this one was actually going for $3,000. We saw a very massive spike, once again, probably thanks to the Ahsoka series, as it was trending for, at one point, $4,430, and it has now come back down and settled in at around $2,500. So I think this will be a pop that is definitely in the $2,000 range for a long time. I don't know if it'll ever become more than that, just because once you start getting higher than $2,000, you're talking about a lot of money, and $2,000 is already pricing out a lot of collectors. So I really think that we're seeing this one in particular kind of settle in at its long-term value. But we got some more Star Wars Freddys that we need to talk about, with the next one here being Freddy Funko as Chewbacca. And unlike Freddy Funko as Anakin, where I actually think they did a very unique and awesome variant for him with the holographic one, Funko unfortunately missed a huge opportunity with Freddy Funko as Chewbacca. They gave us the regular version here coming in at 600 pieces, but I really think that if they had given us a 250 piece Freddy Funko as Chewbacca but flocked, that would have been killer, and I really think they had a huge missed opportunity on their hands. But nonetheless, Freddy Funko as Chewbacca currently trending for $300. Last summer it was going for around $400. We saw a little spike go up to $540, and now it's come down and settled in at that $300 mark, which I think is very fair for a very popular Star Wars character, coming in at that 600 piece mark. Next up, we're going to be switching gears once again, talking about a very obscure licensed Freddy. We have Freddy Funko as Genji from Overwatch. They actually made two versions. There was a silver version, but we're going to be talking about this very rare black Genji version that was limited to only 100 pieces. 100 pieces was the lowest piece count that you could get at the Camp Fundays event. And even though 100 pieces is severely limited, and ultimately 100 piece pops are always going to carry a very high value that will likely price out a lot of collectors, I think Funko should continue to release pieces as limited as these, because it really gives everybody in the community something to go after. Now, Freddy Funko as Genji here, currently trending at $880, which I actually think is very low for a 100 piece pop. When it first hit the market last summer, it was trending for $1,480, and it has since come down. I definitely anticipate some very high sales for this one in the near future, and I would not be surprised if 5 years from now this is a $3,000 to $4,000 pop, just because of how limited it is. Next up, let's talk about a Stranger Things character. We got several different versions of Freddy Funko as Hopper. They did a glow version, which we're about to talk about in a minute, and they did some non-glow versions. The non-glow versions, unfortunately, were caught up in that sticker debacle. However, the glow Freddy Funko as Hopper was not. This one was, in fact, limited to, once again, 100 pieces, and this is one that I fully expect to explode in value when the final season of Stranger Things drops on Netflix. And this one is currently trending for $1,190. Last summer it was trending at a peak of $2,750, and it's since come down. I fully expect it to go back up to at least $2,000, if not more, come the final season of Stranger Things. Next up, we actually have another really cool, unique licensed Freddy here with Freddy Funko as Ron Weasley from Harry Potter. This one was actually limited to 850 pieces, so 850 people were lucky enough to have this one gifted to them at Fundays. This one is also, in my opinion, trending for pretty low, coming in at $180, although there just hasn't been that many sales of this one that were recorded. At one point it was going for a peak of $280, but it's come down about $100 to where it's settled in at $180. Next up, we're going to be talking about some non-Freddy limited items that were given away at Fundays. And I think Funko needs to continue to capitalize on this. Obviously, this year we have Franny, but I really think that they should give us some obscure characters that are also very limited at Fundays, just to appeal to a broader audience, because there are a lot of people who actually don't collect Freddy. They're probably not going to collect Franny, but they would still like some very limited pieces to chase potentially for their collection. And the first one that we're going to be talking about is they actually made a silver metallic Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias, the comedian who has partnered with Funko, loves Funko. We've seen him at a lot of different Funko events. Most recently, we saw him at the Big Boy Project Fred event. I have no doubt that he will likely be in attendance at San Diego Comic-Con and Fundays this weekend. And this silver version of him is the same mold as previous Fluffies they've made, but it's currently trending for $230. It was limited to only 300 pieces. So this is a nice big grail that Fluffy collectors can truly chase after. It did go for about $250 last summer, so we really haven't seen that much of a price change about a year later, but 300 pieces is very limited, so really cool to see something like this given out at Fundays. Next up, we also had a silver metallic SpongeBob SquarePants, and this one was also limited to 300 pieces. Currently trending for about the same as Fluffy, $240, although this one was initially going for $490 when it first hit the market. It hit a peak of $550, and it's since come down and settled in at $240. I would argue that SpongeBob SquarePants is way more popular than Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias, and 300 pieces for a SpongeBob pop is super rare, so I fully expect some more big price jumps in the next coming years as fewer of these are on the market and people are willing to pay a little bit more and more each time one of these does hit the market if it's in mint condition. Now let's talk about some of the mascot pops. So for last year's Camp Fundays, same as the take-home boxes, we had the 4 mascots of the Protomoa Wolves, Papawaka Lumberjacks, Funamuck Bears, and Chesapeake Eagles. All very creative wordplay and just awesome mascots all around. We got the regular 6,500 piece mascots for the take-home boxes, but for the in-person Camp Fundays event, they were actually limited to 850 pieces, and they were all flocked variants of these characters, and they were very cool. And this is a perfect example of how patience will truly pay off, because I know there was a lot of people who really wanted these flock variants, and right now is honestly a perfect time to go out and grab them because they're all extremely reasonably priced. The Protomoa Wolves is currently trending for $29. The Papawaka Lumberjacks is going for around $38. The Fundamuck Bears is actually the most expensive one, coming in at $48. And the Chesapeake Eagles Pop is currently trending at $26. So even if you didn't go to Fundays last year and you wanted to complete your flocked mascot set for last year's Camp Fundays event, you could do it for $150 or less. Like that is extremely reasonable, and just proves to you that despite them being limited pieces, I feel like the mascots are like super hyped up and very sought after in the moment. And then once the event has passed and a few months go by, people are like, I don't really care about it. And then as new collectors come in, they're not really pops that people tend to go after because probably most people don't know about them. But I really think that it is cool that they are limited pieces, they are the flocked variants, and they're very reasonably priced. And this year is going to be interesting because we do have 4 new mascots this year, but it wouldn't really make sense if they do flocked again, especially for the Kraken. I don't really understand how flocking would work for that, so I would like to see them do another rarer variant for the mascots this year, but I think they'll just have to be a little bit more creative if they do decide to give away rarer versions of these mascots at this weekend's event. The last big thing I want to talk about is 4 very unique pops that were given away at Fundays that some of you guys might have forgotten about or just didn't know about. And these were the 6-inch Bigfoots. And now these were given away at the end of the Fundays event. They were limited to 850 pieces each, so every single person from Fundays was given one of these 4 Bigfoots. And they're actually really cool. So the Bigfoot with the red flag is currently trending at $110. The Sasquatch with the yellow flag currently trending at $80. The Blacklight Bigfoot is currently trending at $175. Despite everybody seemingly having blacklight fatigue, that one is actually the most expensive one. And then the Yeti with the orange flag is currently trending at $105. So I thought this was really interesting because unlike the other mascots, which are super reasonably priced, if you want to get all 4 of these Bigfoots, you got to shell out around $500 or so, which is pretty crazy. However, I think that these Bigfoots were perfection. The fact that Funko was able to release 4 limited pieces, all surrounding a character that had to do with a theme, the theme of Camp Fundays, just being outside and camping and adventure, like Bigfoot is just perfect. And the fact that they were all unique. These are just prime examples of the creativity with the molds and the character designs that Funko can do, and they really need to lean into this and do more of it. And I really hope we see some very cool pirate themed and nautical themed characters this weekend that are non-Freddies, because as you guys can see by the prices that I just listed off, there is demand for these characters and people are clearly seeking after them. And despite them being 850 pieces, which is, I'd say, about middle of the road right now for piece counts for non-Freddies and just, obscure creative characters, they're going for pretty good money. That's Grail territory for pretty much each one except for the Sasquatch with the yellow flag. So pretty cool to see that, and that's why I wanted to highlight that for today's video. I lied. The very last thing that I do want to talk about very briefly is the sodas. Unfortunately, we did not get any sodas with chases last year for the Camp Fundays event or the take-home boxes, which I think was a massive missed opportunity. Now, we're not getting chases for the sodas releasing for San Diego Comic-Con, so I don't think that's a good indication of the sodas that we're going to be getting for this week's take-home box and this weekend's Fundays event. I really hope that they turn it around and they give us at least one soda with the chase, but there's really only one noteworthy soda to talk about from last year, and that was the Freddy Funko as Darth Vader, limited to 1,000 pieces. Did not have a chase, of course, but it is currently trending for $175, and it's really the only soda that's going to challenge you financially if you are trying to get it for your collection. I am one of those people still trying to get it for my collection. I need to pick it up at some point, hopefully in the next year or so. But all of the other sodas that they released, the Freddy is Batman's, the Freddy is Turtles, the Freddy is Stranger Things characters, all those are in the neighborhood of $20 to $35. So they're all very reasonably priced, and I think just huge missed opportunity. If Funko had just made the sodas a little bit higher at piece count, but then taken the exact same variants that they made and just put them as chases. Obviously, it must cost more to make a chase as compared to just making two versions of a Freddy Funko as Batman. I just think it would have excited the soda collectors and just collectors in general a lot more than ultimately what we got. But that was a quick recap of all the highlights from last year's take-home box and the Fundays event items that were given away. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Overall, I think Funko handled Fundays good last year. Obviously, we had the sticker debacle, so you can't say that Fundays was great. So on a score of, A being the best and F being the worst, I would give them a B minus just because of some of the good things that they did. They did release pops in the neighborhood of 100 pieces, which is crazy. They gave us exciting versions of characters like the Bigfoots that were really unique and had to do with the theme. They also gave us just overall Freddy's of characters that are highly desired, like Wolverine, like Anakin Skywalker, like Chewbacca, like the Green Ranger. So they did a lot of good things last year for Camp Fundays. Obviously, if we didn't have the sticker debacle, I would give them an A minus. And then if they didn't have the sticker debacle and if they had sodas with chases, I would give them an A plus all the way. So hopefully this weekend we see some awesome Freddys, some awesome Frannies, some awesome, Freddy and non-Franny limited pieces and stuff like that. So I'm pretty excited. We will be doing a Fundays watch party right here on the channel. So 10 p.m. Eastern, join us right here on YouTube. We are going to be watching Fundays live and reacting to all the leaks and the announcements. I have several friends and colleagues who are going to Fundays that are going to be texting me pictures and showing me what they have in their boxes. We're going to be having some live guests on the channel, so it's going to be a blast. If you're not doing anything this Friday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, come join us as we react live to Fundays. That's going to do it. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, don't stop shooting until you score.